It is quiet now, so very quiet. The noise of the day has faded. The world has retreated into its own distant orbit, and you are left here, alone. Perhaps you are lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, watching the faint shadows cast by a street lamp outside. Perhaps you are sitting in your living room, the glow of a screen, the only light, surrounded by a silence so thick it feels almost heavy. And in this quiet, a familiar ache begins to bloom. It starts in the chest, a hollow sensation, a cold draft moving through the corridors of your mind. We call it loneliness. And for most of our lives, we have been running from it. We run from it as if it were a predator, chasing us through the dense forest of our daily lives. We drown it out with music, with podcasts, with the endless scrolling of a brightly lit screen. We fill our calendars. We surround ourselves with people. We talk and talk and talk, hoping the noise will act as a shield. But eventually, the music stops. The screen goes dark. The people go home, and the silence returns, waiting for us. Why does it terrify us so deeply? Why does the mere act of sitting with ourselves feel like an unbearable punishment? Modern psychology tells us that we are profoundly social creatures, wired for connection. In ancient times, separation from the tribe meant certain death. Our nervous systems have evolved to sound an alarm when we are isolated, but we are no longer wandering the ancestral plains. We are living in cities of millions, connected to billions through invisible webs of digital signals. Yet, we have never felt more isolated. We have mistaken connectivity for connection. We have 1,000 acquaintances in our pockets, but no one who truly knows the texture of our silence. And so, when the world goes quiet, we mistake solitude for abandonment. We feel that because no one is looking at us, we must not exist. We feel that because no one is speaking to us, our voice has lost its resonance. But what if we have completely misunderstood the nature of this quiet space? What if this feeling of loneliness is not a punishment, but an invitation? What if it is not an empty room, but a sanctuary waiting to be inhabited? Let us pause here. Take a deep breath. Listen to the sound of your own breathing. In, out. You are here. You are alive. Let us peel back the layers of this fear. The Stoic philosophers of ancient Greece and Rome understood a fundamental truth about human suffering. Epictetus taught that we suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgments about them. We do not suffer because we are alone. We suffer because we judge being alone as a state of lack, a state of failure, a state of being unwanted. We have built an entire narrative around our solitude, a story that says, "You are alone because you are not enough." This story is a lie. It is an illusion spun by an anxious mind, desperate for external validation. Let us look at a story, a modern story, but one that echoes an ancient truth. Imagine a woman named Elena. She is an executive, highly successful, navigating the corporate world with grace and power. Her days are a symphony of meetings, phone calls, negotiations, and social dinners. She is admired. She is respected. People hang on to her every word. She is never physically alone from the moment she wakes until the moment she returns home. But every night, when she turns the key in the lock of her beautiful, expansive apartment, a crushing weight descends upon her. The contrast between the bustling energy of her day and the deafening silence of her home shatters her. She kicks off her shoes, pours a glass of wine, and immediately turns on the television, not to watch it, but simply to hear another human voice, to trick her nervous system into believing she is not alone. For years, Elena ran from this nightly silence. She dated people she did not truly love, simply to avoid the empty side of the bed. She attended parties she had no interest in, simply to avoid her own company. Until one evening, the television broke. The internet went down. A storm raged outside, cutting off the power to her building. Elena was plunged into absolute darkness and absolute silence. Panic set in. Her heart raced, her breath grew shallow. She felt like she was suffocating in the void, but there was nowhere to run. She had to sit on her couch, enveloped in the blackness. For the first hour, her mind tortured her with thoughts of her own insignificance. It told her she was unlovable. It told her she was fundamentally broken, but she breathed through it. She had no choice. By the second hour, the panic began to subside, replaced by a profound, overwhelming exhaustion. By the third hour, a strange shift occurred. The darkness stopped feeling oppressive. It started to feel like a blanket. The silence stopped feeling empty. It started to feel expansive. In the absence of all external noise, Elena finally heard a voice she had ignored for decades, her own. She began to cry. Not out of sadness, but out of a deep, sorrowful recognition. She realized she had been abandoning herself. She had spent her entire life trying to be seen by others while refusing to look at herself. She had been searching for a savior, a companion, a witness to her life. And sitting in the dark, she realized the witness was already there. The witness was her. This is the paradox of loneliness. You feel abandoned by the world, but in truth, you have abandoned yourself. You have outsourced your sense of worth, your sense of comfort, your sense of identity to the external world. And when the external world retreats, you are left with a stranger, yourself. Of course it feels cold. Of course it feels uncomfortable. You are sitting with a stranger you have ignored for years. But how do we change this? How do we cross the bridge from the painful ache of loneliness to the profound peace of solitude? In the teachings of Buddhism, there is a concept known as anatta, or non-self. It teaches that our rigid sense of an isolated, separate ego is an illusion. We feel lonely because we believe we are entirely separate from the universe around us. We see ourselves as isolated drops of water, terrified of evaporating. But the drop of water is not separate from the ocean. It is the ocean, expressing itself as a drop for a brief moment in time. When you sit in silence, you are not disconnected from the world. You are intimately connected to the very fabric of existence. The air you breathe is the same air that rustles the leaves in a distant forest. The carbon in your bones was forged in the hearts of ancient stars. You are the universe, experiencing itself. When you realize this, the empty room is no longer empty. It is filled with the presence of life. Let us explore another story to understand this alchemy of solitude. High in the mountains of ancient Japan, there lived a master woodcarver named Kenji. He lived entirely alone in a small hut, miles away from the nearest village. Once a year, the villagers would climb the mountain to purchase his carvings, which were renowned throughout the province for their breathtaking beauty and lifelike grace. One year, a young merchant asked Kenji, "Master, do you not suffer from the terrible isolation? Do you not weep from the loneliness up here in the clouds with no one to speak to?" Kenji smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. He picked up a piece of uncarved cedar. "Loneliness?" he asked softly. "How could I be lonely? I am surrounded by voices. The wind speaks to the pines. The river sings to the stones. The wood whispers its secrets to my chisel. Kenji paused, looking deep into the young man's eyes. When you are in the village, surrounded by people, you are only listening to the noise of human minds. You are deaf to the great symphony of the world. I did not come to the mountain to be alone. I came to the mountain to finally listen. He gently touched the young man's shoulder. You call it isolation because you think the self is all there is. When you quiet the self, you hear the universe. And the universe is very, very good company. This is the shift. This is the transformation. It is the movement from feeling isolated to feeling integrated. But this does not happen overnight. It requires a courageous practice of sitting with the discomfort. When you feel the pang of loneliness, do not reach for your phone. Do not immediately text someone. Do not turn on the screen. Stay with the feeling. Locate it in your body. Is it a tightness in your chest? A hollowness in your stomach? A tension in your throat? Breathe into that space. Treat that physical sensation as if it were a frightened child that has come to you for comfort. You would not scream at a frightened child. You would not lock them in a closet. You would sit with them. You would put your arm around them. You would say, I am here. You are safe. You must become the parent to your own pain. You must become the companion you have been endlessly searching for in the eyes of others. As you do this, as you sit in the quiet and hold space for your own existence, something magical happens. The frantic energy of the nervous system begins to settle. The cortisol drops. The heart rate slows. The room stops feeling like a prison cell and starts feeling like a sanctuary. You begin to curate your inner space. You realize that your mind is your true home, and you have the power to furnish it with grace, with compassion, with peace. Think of solitude as a blank canvas. When you are constantly surrounded by others, your canvas is painted upon by their expectations, their needs, their emotions. You are constantly reacting, constantly adjusting, constantly performing. But in solitude, the canvas is yours. You can finally ask yourself the questions that matter. Who am I when no one is watching? What do I truly love, stripped of societal approval? What is the shape of my soul when it is not squeezed into the molds of others? This is the sacred space of self-discovery. It is here, in the quiet, that you heal. You heal the wounds of rejection by refusing to reject yourself. You heal the trauma of abandonment by vowing to never abandon yourself again. You realize that every relationship you have in the external world is temporary. Friends move away. Lovers change. Family members pass on. The only companion who will be with you from your first breath to your last breath is you. Is it not worth cultivating a beautiful friendship with that person? Is it not worth learning to love the sound of your own quiet mind? Let us imagine a new morning. You wake up early. The sun is just beginning to paint the sky in hues of soft lavender and gold. The house is silent, but this time, there is no ache. There is no panic. There is only a deep, settling peace. You walk to the kitchen. You boil water. You watch the steam rise in the cool morning air. You pour yourself a cup of tea, wrapping your hands around the warm ceramic. You sit by the window, watching the world slowly wake up. You are alone, but you are not lonely. You are whole. You are a complete universe, sitting in a chair, drinking tea. You feel the profound comfort of your own presence. You realize that you do not need someone else's noise to validate your existence. You do not need someone else's eyes to prove that you are real. You are anchored deep within yourself, like a massive, ancient tree with roots that reach down into the bedrock of the earth. The winds of the world may blow, people may come and go, situations will arise and fall away, but you remain unshakable, rooted in the sanctuary of your own being. This is the ultimate freedom, when you are no longer terrified of being alone. You are no longer a slave to the need for attention. You can engage with the world from a place of abundance, rather than a place of starvation. When you love someone, you love them because you choose to, not because you desperately need them to fill a void. Your relationships become healthier, purer, free from the heavy burden of codependency. You offer others the same spaciousness, the same quiet grace that you have cultivated within yourself. So, the next time the world goes quiet, the next time you find yourself alone in a room, and that old familiar fear tries to rise in your chest, do not run, do not hide, smile at it, welcome it. Say to the silence, I am ready. Step into the quiet, walk through the door of your own solitude, and welcome yourself home. You have been waiting for you for a very long time. Rest now, breathe deeply. You are exactly where you need to be, safe, whole, and completely, perfectly at peace.